Anyone? Discussion, question?
Focus the target audiences of the magazine publications, et cetera. I kept hearing all superintendents get this magazine or this is on their desk, that type of thing.
Right.
And obviously, an existing superintendent would be someone to consider, but I wouldn't consider this an exclusive group. So someone who's not part of that circle of influence, if you will, how would they also know that this is available or how type of thing?
It's a good question, Bill. Basically, an assistant superintendent or anyone in that level that is looking to be a superintendent also gets Education Week. Also, and you can be an assistant superintendent and be a member of the American Association of
Principals
School
as
Administrators.
well?
Principals, no. Principals are included in the Wisconsin Career Center. When I was the director of WASDA, we were the superintendent's group. We were in the same building with principals, business managers, and special ed directors. So the Wisconsin Career Center takes in all principals.
That's the leadership center, you mean? Same
Yes,
thing?
the leadership
Okay.
center,
All right.
yes.
And through outside education, then it's mostly by word of mouth or people just picking it
Yes.
up on it, whatever. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Anyone else? All right, does everybody understand the motion then, about the advertising? Okay, let's vote. That passes unanimously 9-0.
Next, if we could discuss the survey, I think that would be helpful for Miles and Jim. That is a separate attachment from one of the documents. If you would spend a few minutes just going through the survey, we could approve the survey and the letter that will go out in advance of the survey, probably at the same time.
As I say, this survey is the survey that's been used extensively by our firm. It's similar to surveys that other firms might use because it asks people to identify, are they a certified, non-certified, community member, business member, parent, student, past parent, other, and then listing other. So it really, it asks people to identify who they are. Then it goes through and says, please list out of this list the top educational strengths of the district. Then it asks for top education, the strengths of organization and management in the district, the district priorities, the improvements that are needed in the district in organization and management, and the education improvements on the last question that are most needed in the school district. Or that's not the last one, excuse me. The final page has the top 7 characteristics and skills, assuming honesty and integrity, because that's obviously paramount. I mean, Bill, like you said, we're not going to consider anybody that doesn't have a record of absolute honesty and integrity. But here's a long list that we want people to consider. What are the other top 7 characteristics they would like to see? And then there's a section where that they can ask other questions of the firm. The survey, I think, is fairly self-explanatory, and it's worked very well in other districts in the past.
With that, I would move approval of the survey as presented with the cover letter that would be included from our board members as part of that survey when it's posted.
Motion and second? Go ahead, Kathy.
Just a, thanks. Thank you. Just a point of clarification on the survey. It says that it begins October 1st, but I thought on the calendar it
Oh,
started on
yeah.
October 3rd.
Yes.
And then I put in my notes that the survey closes on the 14th. Am I wrong about that? Or is it?
No.
Or
November 14th, yes.
Okay, so we'd
We
obviously want to
changed
change
the
the
first
dates.
on there, yes,
Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure that we were clear about.
exactly.
Go ahead, Bill.
They are to simply list the top 5 or rank them 1 through 5? Just select, check mark the 5 that are the most important. They don't put them in order, I'm assuming?
Right.
Okay. When the survey is done, is there methods to prevent stuffing the ballot box? So I can't go online and fill it out 50 times saying we need someone who's gonna make the tennis program the best in the state. I mean, that you can stop that from happening or whatever. or-
Right. I'm not a technical expert, but yes, it's my understanding that
Okay.
since it's an online survey, that the source is blocked after it's filled out once.
Okay.
I can confirm that with you if you'd like.
If it's not, let us know. I'm assuming it will be too, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the first line up there says that.
Okay.
All right. I got derailed with the tennis thing because I saw that picture of your daughter in the paper. That was awesome. But anyway. No, it was the guns on her. Oh, my goodness. All right. Anybody else on this motion and second? Sorry. Anyone else? Okay, let's vote. That passes unanimously 9-0. Timeline?
Yeah, I think we should entertain a motion to approve the timeline as submitted.
I'll second that.
There's a second.
Okay,
Any
so
questions?
it's my motion, Deb.
Any seconds? Any discussion? I have a question just about if we approve this, is it that concrete? You know what I mean? I mean,
There's a lot of moving parts to this,
Yeah.
is the problem, because we have to allow a certain amount of time, let's say, for them to prepare the videos. I mean, we have to have a 2-week span there. The interviews, we want to get the interviews done early in January, because we want to capture the candidate field. January, February, and March is when the field really starts to open up. And as we discussed before, or had mentioned before, you've got a head start on this, and that's really good, because you're going to get candidates that you're going to be one of the first out of the box in advertising for a position. And if we move too late, if we go into late January or February or March, your candidate pool may dwindle. You may have candidates that you'd be interested in that are no longer available because other jobs have opened up. So we have to interview on January the 3rd, and then give a week for them to confirm that they're coming back for the second round of interviews, those finalists, line up all the committees and make sure all the schedules are ready. What I'm trying to say is, basically, yes, these are locked in stone. There may be some flexibility in a date within a week, but as far as weeks are concerned, there's really not much flexibility
And I
now.
just get that, I mean, I think this is locked in stone for us. I mean, we have to do this.
Yeah.
We have to get this work done according to this schedule. The board, of course, if something unforeseen happens, you are the Board of Education, and you can make some adjustments if you choose to do so.
I appreciate that. Go ahead, Kathy.
A quick question. A quick question about the 3rd of January.
Right.
Is this, would this be something that we do in the evening and just, 6 or 7 interviews in a row? Or is this over the course of the full day? Do you have an idea of what that looks like?
It's a full day. On the 3rd, that's a full day of interviews that we
Okay.
would have to set up. And I mean, I know it's an imposition for those of you who work, but we could set up the interviews of the committees at a time, and then you do the interviews later. Those committees, let me just explain, we're going to put together heterogeneous committees comprised of the people that are listed here. They're going to interview the candidates. When they interview the candidates, they're going to fill out a sheet, a prescribed set of questions that they answer about that candidate. The board will take all of those sheets from those committees, read those, and then do. Now, if you're talking about the 3rd, no, that's the first. I'm sorry, I'd already jumped into the final round of applicants. On the 1st, you would be doing on January 3rd. You'd be doing all of the candidates, 45 minutes each, straight through all 4, 5, or 6 of them. Yes. Sorry about that.
If this question should have been back on the advertising, I apologize. The compensation comment here. Can you, I mean, obviously, we don't want to say we pick somebody, is, oh, I'm not gonna work for you for that, I need this, and then we're back to square one. So, first of all, is our current package fit your description?
I'm glad you asked that question, because basically when we do the superintendent's profile, we're going to work on that in executive session. And at that point, We will have already worked with your attorney to set the parameters for the contract that you will approve, so that you'll say, okay, this is a salary range that we will not exceed, or a benefit package that we will not exceed. So we will then, when we're recruiting candidates, when we have the superintendent profile, we'll say, all right, this is as much as they're going to go, generally. There's always at the end, there's maybe a little bit of wiggle room there, but that's a good question. We have to be able to go out and say to the candidates, here's the salary range and a fringe benefit. Are you willing to work for that if you are selected? Because we can't get to the end and then the negotiations collapse because, no, I'm not going to work for that.
And likewise, you'll tell us, by the way, you guys are overpaying, underpaying, about right. I mean, if you're telling us, look, guys, I gotta tell you, I'm not gonna find anybody for this. I mean, I'm not being, again, being very,
Yes, we will.
stretching the truth. Okay,
Yes,
so
we
you
will.
let us know. All right.
Yes.
Sorry
That candid conversation will take place when we establish the parameters of the contract.
The only dates I see conflict is we just got the WASBA convention dates in, that is January 18th through 20th. And so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And that's when the board's vetting. I think I'm the representative with, I think, are you a backup? Whatever. So,
We kept it for two reasons. We didn't move it the week before. You have a regular board meeting, which we don't usually like to do this extensive interview process of the final candidates on the night of a regular board meeting. And between the first week, January the 3rd, and then the third week, we need that week in there to confirm the candidates and to lock them into an interview process. So that's unfortunate that it would conflict with the WSB conference, but you could go down on the 18th and be there through the 20th, because it will conclude on the night of the 17th.
right, but then I'm sorry, the board vetting of the candidate, the
Well, those are
January-
phone calls. They're predominantly phone calls
Okay,
that could be made. Thank you.
And Miles, that's not always done by the entire board. That is done, when it talks about a site visit, it could be a team, if we choose to send people to a site visit. So that's you've already chosen your top candidate.
Right.
This is making absolutely sure that is your top candidate.
And maybe I should you can either do a site visit with a select members of the board, or you can do a phone interview process that we use frequently. And that is the final candidate, the successful candidate that you're offering the job to, comes to the interview, because I've told them to, with a list of 18, there's 9 of you, 18 members of their community and their telephone numbers and their role. And that 18 has to include board members, PTO, teacher union reps, community leaders, bank presidents, chamber of commerce. They have to give you a list of 18 people. We give each of you 2, and you call those, you each call 2 off of that list. You're assigned to 2. That gets you embedded into the community to really talk to people and say, we're thinking of hiring your superintendent. What do you think of your superintendent? So each one of you will have a phone call into that community. And I think that's a strength of this process. Much stronger than a community visit where 2 or 3 of you go and, visit the community and walk around, and you don't have to pay the plane fare too. So.
my husband was recently on a committee that hired an assistant pastor at our church, and they went through all the interviews and actually had a front runner. Then they did a community visit where our lead pastor went hiking for a few hours with the candidates and completely flip-flopped their selection. And bear with me, I know it isn't apples to apples here, but is there a way to get that kind of a feel, like let that person be with our administration or be with our board enough, or in an environment where it isn't just across the table talking? I mean, are there any scenarios that could play out to kind of get to understand their character a little bit more, or what it might be to see another side of their personality?
It's an interesting point. I can't think of any venue in which a candidate would have an opportunity to be with 9 of you individually, or even a group of you. And if it's a select group, then is it how the interaction is with that just select group? I think the process that we've done here has been successful in 300 searches. We've never been sued. We've never lost a search. We've never brought one in over budget and not on time. Again, remember, if you don't like the candidates that we bring to you at the very end, we go back to the drawing board and no additional fee. We continue to advertise, vet, and get candidates and bring them to you. So we are committed to make sure you are completely happy with that individual.
And I just say a word about the phone call process, because that sounds kind of rudimentary, but many times the phone call is a very effective way to confidentially get some information about the performance of an individual. It's used many times with staff members at lower on the hierarchy than superintendents, but that can be a highly effective way to get some insight about superintendents.
Two things briefly. I'm assuming this is Wisconsin, so there's a blizzard on a certain date. We can obviously work around those kind of things, and things happen weather-wise that whatever.
We'd have to. We'd have to move. That's why I said maybe within
Right.
a week we can move
Sure.
the date.
And to Michelle's question, I think, Michelle, if it's like a number one hiring number two, that type of thing makes sense. To have a candidate come here, we'd have 9 different opinions about how they interact, because we're all, different that way. So I think I like the idea, but I think it wouldn't make sense in this type of environment, so.
I have a question before I forget. We're talking about focus groups and engaging the community, which is wonderful and certainly needed. How do you know who to ask?
As it indicates on the sheet here, but it needs further description. It says the district needs to set the schedule, issue the invitations, and set up the room for the groups. You are going to have to decide as a board. The way we usually recommend this is that Steve, the clerk, and the board president would take input from the board. They can email you and give you names, or they can call you and give you names, whatever. But you tell us. We can't set those committees up. You have to determine who the leaders are. Usually you let the teachers, like the union president, if you have a union president, let them select the teachers that are going to be in the focus group. You let the principal select the students. You then select the community leaders that are going to be on those groups. You set those committees up and just send them to us. It'd be nice if we had 10 in the group in the morning and 10 in the group in the afternoon, heterogeneous groups, different people from different walks of life. And, you have to set them up and decide that for us.
So then I'm making an assumption that that's part of a timeline then as well, when that task has to be done and
Yes,
started. So those are things that you and Patrick and Steve will,
be definitely working
All right,
on that. That's why it's
make your
November the
list.
10th.
okay,
We have up until November the 10th to get that organized.
okay. Anyone else? Go ahead, Dale.
Quick clarification. What's the date for interviews with the board members? Is that the 3rd?
No, I'm sorry. What I tried to say is that will be set by your individual calendars. We will be contacting you. What I'd like to do is take like 2 days and say, okay, here's a schedule, sign up when you're available.
Okay.
And we will drive back to the district. Both of us will come back to the district to sit in on individual board interviews, set up in your schedule and your calendars. Yeah.
I'm sorry, to your last point, like how we pick the teams. So there's probably some discussion at this table on how we want to determine that. Do you then counsel us on that? We discuss it among ourselves and give us advice? I mean, because we made a comment that right away says, oh, I got a difference of opinion here already. I don't know when that discussion takes place.
If it cannot be accomplished by communicating to, say, Steve and Kevin, if you're suggesting these are the people that should be on, and then they come up with a list and send it to the board, and you have a disagreement with that, then you may have to have a meeting on that. You've got some meetings
Okay.
between now and then, but usually it works out all right because you're looking for visible leaders, visible people within the community. There's no
Well,
staffing.
I'm looking for high performers in our district to be picking it, not necessarily who they're affiliated with or not with, but that their performance on their job is high. That's what I want to look at.
And that's who you're going to nominate.
Okay,
to
thank you.
Kevin.
So just a couple points of clarification. We are voting on a timeline or a calendar. Within that calendar, there's some language, and I want to make sure that whoever's listening or the press understands that while it says selected 4 to 6 candidates, that is just a number. It is not a finite number.
Right.
Because it could be more than that, it could be less than that. Also, everyone needs to be aware that once you reach a certain threshold, then it becomes finalists. So we're waiting for the final clarification from our attorney on, I believe it's 5 or less, they become finalists. So you want to have 2 rounds of interviews, one with non-finalists, and all of those will be confidential. No one is going to know who those people are. When they become finalists, it will be known who those finalists are. So when you see that we're going to be recommending interviewing a select 4 to 6 candidates, it could be 7, it could be 8 candidates. That's just a number on this document. Okay.
And Steve, thank you. Let me emphasize this. We cannot do our job properly as search consultants when we're out there recruiting the very best candidates if they think that their name is going to be known just from the very beginning. If the way the rules and the laws are structured is this can be confidential and should be, so we can get the maximum number of good candidates up until it gets to the finalists, the top 3. Then we do want to and have to release to the press and the public those candidates' names, their backgrounds, and so forth. But we will severely limit the number of people who will apply for this job if their name is going to be released right away.
So with that, we have about 5 minutes left. I appreciate your comment, Michelle. One of the reasons we hired this firm was because my expectation is Jim and Miles are going to be pre-vetting those people very strongly before we see them. So I'm hopeful we don't, I've done pastor searches myself. I'm hopeful we don't have those things. We've addressed those. So we have a motion and a second to approve the calendar.
Discussion? Okay, let's vote. That passes unanimously 9-0. So we still have to, this focus groups item is.
Basically, you're approving, what you'd be approving is the model that on November the 10th, there would be a focus group in the morning of 10 to 20 people and one in the afternoon of 10 to 20 people that you will construct. And we will work with you, but you'll put those names together and set the sites on November the 10th. And you'll set up a public meeting place at 5:30 on November the 10th, where the entire public will be welcome to attend that, give their input. That's what you're voting on, essentially.
And it really is voting on the framework. And if we approve that tonight, then Patrick and I and Deb and you, Kevin, will start working on what that looks like. And we would solicit input from board members. They give us a framework of potential people, but anyone that you think should be in those focus groups, we want to be as inclusive as we possibly can.
Exactly.
So I would move approval of the focus group structure as presented.
Motion is second. Further? Go ahead, Bill.
And these focus groups are not homogeneous, they're mixed. So each group has on it administrators, staff versus having a group of administrators. That make you think you stated in your presentation. Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else? All right, let's vote. And that passes unanimously 9-0. Go ahead.
One final item, I would ask for the board's permission to utilize our attorney Dave Moore to work with Miles to begin the process of reviewing the current contract that we have, looking at comparable contracts in the region so they can start creating that profile. Attorney Moore shared information with us 6-8 months ago, and I would just need your permission to go ahead and authorize Dave to start working with Miles so we are ahead of the game with that process.
All right. Final comments?
Well,
Miles,
Jim and I
Jim?
spent a lot of time on this, and thank you to Steve for all the help on coordinating and organizing. But I think the word that I heard several times, and I have to really echo it on my own part, I'm excited about this process. I'm really excited about Janesville getting the very best superintendent they can to work with the board to serve the children. It's all about how well we can serve the children. And a high-quality administrator is a huge step in that direction, especially when they work with the board and the staff. I was proud to hear that the teachers are top-notch teachers, and This is a district that we're going to enjoy selling and enjoy recruiting and getting somebody really good for you. So thank you very much.
I think can I just add to that, that I think this expression of community support for public education is absolutely critical. And the way the board worked together tonight, I think is evidence that this is the kind of district that will attract top-notch candidates. We can sell those two ideas, a coherent approach from the board and a supportive community. Doesn't get any better.
Very much.
We're adjourned.